every year around this same time, summer's in full swing, people are excited about finally doing the things that they've been waiting all year to do. There's a conversation that comes up, or it's more of a theme that comes up in conversation. It's probably a better way to say it. And essentially, it's that travel is some sort of competition, that you can win or lose at travel. I think that that is completely inaccurate. It's 100% wrong. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Of course, this is wherever we end up. It's a place where we talk about where we go, the things we do to get there, and what it feels like along the way. My name's Kat. Sometimes I'm solo, sometimes I'm with friends, but always on the move. And today, I had to sit down with you and talk about this thing that's been on my mind because, again, it's that time of year. I'm hearing a lot about this on social media, but also, it doesn't just come up on social media. It comes up in conversations that you have sometimes with people that you meet, which is always wild, but also comes up with family and friends. And I just don't think that it gets the attention that it deserves. So, like so many of the other topics that we discuss here, I want to bring it up. I want to have an honest conversation with you about this because I think that this attitude towards travel, not only is it, in my opinion, completely off base, but I think that it's off-putting for some people. I think that it discourages people from having the experiences that would have them, I don't know, according to these people who bring it up like this, quote, leveling up or whatever. And it's just interesting because it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Like, so tell people that they're not good enough because they don't do things, but because of the way you talk about it, you discourage them from doing those things, I actually don't think it's about travel at all. I think it's about the shortcomings of people who feel like they're lacking in other areas of their life, but that's beside the point. Or maybe it's the whole point. You know what? Let's start there. Let's start there. Just get it all out. So, one thing that I think, again, people kind of dance around the bush of is that, there are a lot of people on social media, there are a lot of people out there in the world who just aren't satisfied with their life. They're not satisfied with the way that things are going. And I get it, man. Who can't identify with that? Who can't identify with being in a moment where you're like, ugh, it's just not going the way I wanted it to go. We've all been there. And if you haven't been there, you'll end up there at some point. But what separates people is the way that they handle that type of situation, that type of very real life experience. There are some people who, when they find themselves in a position where they don't feel like they're good enough, where they feel like they're just not happy with the direction of their life, their way to correct is to make other people feel the way they do. This is not directly related to travel, but it does, of course, bleed into travel. You've probably encountered people like this in the past. Maybe you haven't realized it, but you're probably going to encounter people like this, right? People who just they do things because they think it's the right choice, and then it turns out to not be the right choice. But instead of just correcting course for themselves, they need other people to justify their choice. Maybe they need other people to be miserable so that they can be like, yeah, this is just the way it is, right? I see this a lot when it comes to married couples. There are people who are unhappy in their marriage, and instead of just being like, I'm unhappy with my marriage, I need to do the work to correct it, or I need to get a divorce because I'm unhappy, they will try and make other people unhappy with their marriage so that they can be like, yeah, this is just the way it is. Marriage sucks. Have you ever encountered people like that? I have. But there are other people who, when they encounter something about themselves that they don't like, when they're in a situation that they're not happy with, they look at it honestly and they go, okay, this is a situation that I'm not happy with, so I'm going to do my best to try and correct that. And yeah, there's this like grace period in between where you can't like figure it out. You have to navigate through that scenario. But during that time period, instead of putting other people down, they go into conversations, they go into experiences, they go into the world, out into the world, going, okay, I'm the one who's not happy. So it's on me to make the corrections that are best for me, right? So that's the separation of people when they're not necessarily pleased with themselves or the way that things are going. And there can be a lot of resentment for people who fall into that second category from people who are in that first category, you know? When you're willing to accept your mistakes and look at them square in the eye and be like, yeah, I need to make corrections. People who don't want to do that start to get grumpy because you're proving something that they already know, and that's that they don't want to do the work. I think that people who look at travel like it's some sort of competition fall into the category of people who are unhappy with some aspect of their life, and this is what they have that's good. And so instead of just accepting that this is the thing that they have that's good and what they're doing works for them, they need to prove that it's actually good by forcing other people to meet their criteria for it being good. Does that make sense? I know I'm saying a lot, so bear with me. But in other words, they're just not happy people. But this thing, whether it's traveling in the way that they do, doing the things that they do, doing the experiences that they do, spending the money that they do, whatever it is the thing that makes them happy, and they can't fathom other people being happy if they don't check off every item on that list. If you have ever found yourself having conversations with family or friends, especially if you've ever found yourself on social media, planning a trip, thinking about going to a place, whatever the case may be, you may have stumbled into conversations like this. If you haven't, I am so happy for you. But I stumble into conversations like this all the time. It's not something I seek out. It's not something I want to be part of. But it is something that I see. People saying, why would you go to this destination when you could go to that destination? People criticizing people for exploring the United States but not going to Europe. People talking about why you would take your family to a theme park versus taking your family to, a real life safari in Africa. There's like a whole long list of things that people are just super critical of because they believe that travel is a very specific thing and it looks a very specific way. If you've ever found yourself listening to a conversation like that, hearing a conversation like that, let me be the first person to tell you that that is bullshit. Full stop. And it's bullshit for a few different reasons. First and foremost, everyone starts somewhere. I know. It's something that you don't hear nearly as often as you ought to. But everyone starts somewhere. Sometimes people start by going to their local amusement park and it's 30 minutes away and that's where they go every summer and they spend a long weekend there because that's all they can manage. That's all they're interested in. That's still traveling for some people. Yeah, it's only 30 minutes away, but they get a hotel and they stay there and they do the water park and they do the amusement park and it's all fun and games and that's what they enjoy. That's how their family gets out of the routine of day-to-day life. Some people travel the country. They get in the car and they drive for 24 hours in one direction and they see all the little things that there are to see. And some people travel the world. Some people, they get on a plane and they fly for 24 hours to get wherever it is that they happen to go. And they're always going somewhere new and whatever the case may be. But everyone starts somewhere and that looks different for everyone. And let me be the first to say, saying a lot of things for the first time today, that each and every starting point is a totally legitimate one. Look, I'm from a family that is not a family of travelers. Not at all. My family was like an Everybody Loves Raymond situation. We all lived within like a 10-minute drive of each other. And, annually we did trips to Walt Disney World. That's what my family did. Maybe we would go to New Hampshire if we didn't go to Disney on a particular summer. That was it. That was the entire thing. That was the entire story. And I always wanted to go more places and do more things because I watched Travel Channel and I was really excited about the places that were around the world. And I always wanted to go see more places and do more things. But, this is where we went. This is what we did. And it was a big trip for us. It was big for us to, get on a plane with our bags, fly to Florida from Massachusetts, and then spend a couple weeks there if we were lucky on that particular year. That was still travel. It was still getting outside of our normal day-to-day rhythm, going to a new place, experiencing something that even though it wasn't new, because after a certain point, it was the same place year after year, it was still something outside of the normal. And of course, we talked to people while we were there. We experienced different cultures through some of the experiences that you would have at the theme parks. Doesn't seem like much, but it was absolutely, for me, the thing that got me interested in going more places, because I was like, oh my God. For those of you who may not have heard this story before, the thing that got me excited about travel, the thing that has me basically doing what I do here, was that we would go to Epcot, one of the 4 theme parks. Well, it wasn't always one of 4, it was one of 3 at one point, but at the Walt Disney World Resort. And in Epcot, in this theme park, the bottom of the barrel according to some people when it comes to travel things, there's this section called World Showcase. You kind of make your way through the park and then you get to this point. Think of it as like the number 8. So you get to the middle of the number 8. And when you look out across the water, you see all of these different countries, 11 different countries that are represented in this theme park. And each of those countries, they have like representatives that are from those countries. So you can wander around, enjoy some of the cuisine, and meet people from those countries, hear what the language sounds like, all of that. To me, that was the thing that had me go, oh my God, the world is such a vibrant and amazing place. And this was just 11 countries, one of which was the United States. So I was like, the thing that made me interested in travel was here. I was influenced by this theme park to go places and do things. And I eventually moved to Japan, lived there for 10 years, traveled around the country, experienced all the little pockets of Japan, soaked up as much of it as I could. And then when I moved to the United States, I moved to a place I had never been to. Started traveling around the country, experiencing all the little pockets of the United States. I haven't experienced all of them, but I have experienced quite a few. And when doing that, I allowed myself to see this place as a place that was new, looking at it like it was a place I was learning about and not a place that I was familiar with because I happened to be American, because I hadn't seen much of the United States before moving back. I'd seen a few places here and there, mostly on the East Coast, actually all of it on the East Coast. And so the point is, because I know I'm kind of getting into a little bit more story than I originally had anticipated when I wanted to talk about this topic, but the point is, everyone's version of travel looks a little different. Everyone starts somewhere. And it's interesting because I can't help but wonder why that's not okay, according to some people, for whom travel is like this competitive sport, you know? It should be. It should be okay. But still, it doesn't seem like they're all right with that. It seems like that's a problem. But I'm here to tell you that it's not. You know, anywhere you go is worth going if it's somewhere that you want to go. I know that's something I say all the time as well. But another thing that I think is important to recognize in this conversation, also it's one of those things that we've kind of touched on in the past, and I do want to dig more into as we get into more topics related to travel, but like the reason that you go to a place does not have to be this like textbook cultural exchange that some people make it out to be. Now, I know that this might get a little bit twisted and it might be hard to understand what it is that I'm trying to say here, okay? So let me just make sure that I'm being perfectly clear. I think that when you go to a place, this is my preference, when you go to a place, you should soak up as much of it as you can. Again, my preference. But you don't always know where to begin, okay? So you have to find a starting point. You have to find the thing that you're interested in that gets you to go to that place to begin with so that you can use that as a jumping off point. Sometimes that might be something really simple. It might be something like getting pizza. It might be something like going to a McDonald's in Greece. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that has you leaving a changed person. In fact, I would go out on a limb, or I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you shouldn't seek out experiences that are supposed to change you. You should seek out experiences that you're interested in, and as a result, they just might change you. They might have a major impact on you. I think that this is another like little detail that always gets added to the travel as a competition discussion. Like, there are people who think that you need to go to all these places and they're gonna like change your worldview automatically, but especially because you went to very specific places while you were there. And the truth of the matter is, like, that's not always going to be the case. You know, there are some places that you're going to go and they have absolutely been defining for some people. Like, they've defined their entire existence. And for you, they mean absolutely nothing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that it's fair to say that every place you go or a specific list of places should hold the burden or should have the burden of changing you as a person. That's a very personal thing, you know? And not every person is going to experience the culture of a place in the same way. Not everyone's going to have the life experiences that have them experiencing the culture of a place in the same way as someone else, which is another big thing that I think, especially when we're talking about the United States as a whole. I'm from the United States, so that's like my point of reference. Yes, it is the center of my universe because it is literally where I am from. It's not the center of my universe, but it is where my perspective is coming from, at least a chunk of it, at least right now. But I think that, we're talking about a place like the United States. This is true for other countries as well, especially really big countries. As much as people don't want to admit it, there are subcultures within the United States. It's not just one culture. It's not just American culture. Like that does encompass everything that is here. There are certain things that we all share, just like is true if we talk about Japan or any other country. There are things about those countries that everyone in that country shares. But there are also pockets of culture and way of living that exist in different parts of the United States that don't exist in other parts of the United States. So if you are from a certain area and then you go to a different country, you might not have you're probably not going to have the same experience that someone who's from, the opposite coast in the United States, but also still in the United States has. I mean, even just think about, so I'm from the Northeast, right? And we have a lot of, even where I'm from specifically, we have like a lot of Portuguese, Italian, all of that is kind of ingrained into the culture of that area. Okay? There are some places that if we go to a place like Italy, a place like Portugal, I haven't been to either place, so take this with a grain of salt, but still, I'm just sharing my experience here. There are going to be some similarities. Now, is there a difference in like the Americanized version? The immigrants who came to the United States, what that looks like here in the United States compared to a place like Italy or Portugal? Absolutely, right? Like there are going to be differences there. But you at least might know a little bit of what to expect better, or you might experience it differently, I should say, than someone who is coming from like Nebraska. Someone who is coming from the Midwest, let's say, where they have a whole different type of culture that is so very different from the Northeast. Is this making sense? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Even if you don't, the point that I'm getting at is that the United States is a big place, so it's a huge ask to suggest that you would fully understand and fully grasp everything about it in such a way that you're definitely going to experience insert country here in a way that aligns with me. You know what I mean? It's another one of those things that those people who are making travel a competition don't understand. Not to mention, there's other things too. Like, there's such a long list. I could literally be here talking to you all day about all the ways in which travel can be experienced differently depending on who you are. Not only where you're coming from and what the culture is in that place, but also what's your situation? What's your budget? I'll tell you right now, as someone who has traveled with a tight budget and someone who has traveled with a little extra cushion in my budget, okay? You see things differently depending on how much money you're willing to spend, depending on how much money you're capable of spending. These people who think that travel is a competition, how much money they got to spend on this? Because if they don't have a lot of money to spend on it, but also they're a solo traveler who is not trying to travel with kids, they have no idea what it's like to travel with a family. Maybe a family who has more money to spend. Maybe a family who has less money to spend. Like there's so many things here. There's so many things here that we could like dig into. And I know I've kind of been rambling about this, but again, that's what we do here, you know? It's like the most unfiltered form of conversation that you and I could be having. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at, the point that I'm trying to make is that there is no competition here. Whether we're talking about traveling internationally, seeing the world, or even if we're talking about going to one specific place, the theme parks are another great example of this. If you remember some of the conversations we've had in the past, or if you've been over to our YouTube channel, you know that we talk about the theme parks here in the Orlando area, which is where I'm currently based. And this is another place that you see a lot of this type of thing. You know, oh, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. Are you even really doing this if you don't insert thing here? Yeah, you are still freaking doing it. You are still experiencing Disney if you stay at the budget hotel. You are still experiencing the theme parks if you pack a sandwich. I don't understand why this type of conversation is so prevalent. Not because I don't understand the fact that there are people who are compensating for something like I mentioned earlier. I totally understand that. And it happens too much. I wish that people would just be happy with what they have, at least in this moment, you know? Like, don't be happy. Work harder, okay? Fine, work harder, but do it for you. But just appreciate this moment for what it is. Be happy with this thing that you have right now, that you've worked hard enough to have this thing, or be happy that even though you feel like you slacked off and this is all you've got, that you've changed your mindset to work harder in the future to get the thing you want, right? However you want to make this situation into one that works best for you, right? But the thing that I really don't understand is why, you know, quite frankly, why are people getting away with this? Why are people getting away with this mindset, and why is no one pushing up against it? Is it because people like me who haven't been to 36 countries, or who honestly enjoy traveling around the United States and take the position that yes, there are multiple countries, or multiple cultures, I should say, excuse my slip of the tongue, here in the United States that are worth visiting and experiencing, even though it's all one country? Like, is it because that when I push up against the fact that I don't think that travel is a competition and that it's different for everyone and meaningful to everyone in a different way, you're gonna delegitimize me because, like, is that the reason that people don't push up against it? Is that the reason that we aren't having conversations about this in an honest way? Is it that people feel bad about what they've accomplished, and so they don't want to push up against some person who thinks that, being on country 52 is more important? Like, what is it? What is it that has us not able to have honest conversations about this? Is it the blurred line between content for information and content for education? Is it that? One way or another, I think it's important to have these conversations. I think it's important to take the time to discuss this, because the truth is, even if you do believe that travel is a competition, even if you do believe that you're not as good as the person who's been all over the world and taken selfies at every historic site that they've stumbled across while wearing, handmade leather sandals or whatever the hell is the standard, you can't achieve that. Even if you believe that it's a competition, you can't compete if you don't go. So then you have to admit that you had to start somewhere, right? Again, I don't think that travel is a competition. I don't think that we should look at it like that. I think we should ride our own ride, to borrow a phrase from my biker days. We should do what we're doing to the best of our capability, as opposed to focusing on trying to chase others. Because that's when things go wrong. That's when you get hurt. So just keep that in mind. That's what's been on my mind today, so I wanted to share it with you, but just keep that in mind. As you go through this summer and you're hearing people talk about how they're better than you, or whatever it is that they're saying, don't feel bad about whatever it is that you're willing to accomplish. Don't let someone on the internet, or even someone that you meet out and about, or your family or your friends, make you feel bad for doing what it is that you are doing. If you feel good about it, that's all that matters. That having been said, thanks for hanging in there with me today. Thanks for sitting down and having this conversation. I hope that you get something out of it. I know that for some people it's an uphill battle. I get that. But hopefully this conversation is like the first few steps in getting where you want to go. But with that, wherever it is that you happen to be right now, I hope you find yourself somewhere worth going. Have a good one, guys.